on are we streaming on YouTube?
We're streaming.
Alhamdulillah, so we can go ahead and start.
Be a few minute lag, but yeah, we're up and running.
Perfect. Alhamdulillah. Shaykh Ameen, how you doing today?
Alhamdulillah. I feel okay.
Alhamdulillah. So should I go ahead and start?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hajj Daud.
Hajj Daud, how you feeling? Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to pick me up yesterday.
No problem.
On Friday, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وذرياته وأهل البيت كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إني أسألك من كل خير سألك من محمد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وأعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك من محمد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أنت أعلم منا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من فتنة المحيا والممات ومن فتنة القبر ومن فتنة المسيح الدجال ومن عذاب النار وسوء المصير اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد رضي الله عنه صحابي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to our weekly Maliki Fiqh class with our teacher, Shaykh Ameen Abdul Awal. My name is Brother Habibur Rasul. I am one of Shaykh Ameen's students, studied with Shaykh Ameen for some time and benefited from him greatly, transformed by my time with him. You know, when you look at the stories of the different ulama, and for sure I'm not putting myself in that category at all, not even close. But when you look at the stories of the big people in the history of Islam, oftentimes they will say things like, had I not been with this teacher or that teacher for the time I was with them, I would have been lost. And this is my testimony of my time with Shaykh Ameen. This class is a class on Maliki Fiqh, or is a term that some people translate as jurisprudence or sacred law. This is learning about how we are to implement our deen according to the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is according to the way of Imam Malik, the Maliki school of law. Right. So this is a class where you're learning deen according to the traditional way, right? According to the traditional way. And in our time, there are many people that have been sort of influenced by reformist movements that seek to teach Islam in a way other than the way that it has been taught for over 1,000 years. Shaykh Ameen, our teacher, has been teaching according to this way longer than anybody else in America, anybody else in this part of the world that we know about. You know, anybody that we don't know, anybody in the history who's been teaching this from amongst us for this long. He's a student of Dr. Suleiman Dunya, rahmatullahi, the renowned authority on not only Maliki Fiqh, but also Aqidah and Tasawwuf from Azhar University. The Egyptian scholar came to America during the 1960s and saw the burgeoning reformist trends of people leaving the traditional way of learning the deen, and said he wanted to come to America, could have came anywhere in the world, said he wanted to come to America because he saw this as like the last frontier of Islam. Came and surrounded himself with the burgeoning, mostly working class African-American Muslim community in New York City, teaching the men and the women. And Shaykh Ameen, may Allah preserve him, was his top student that he left for us to learn this material. And he said that he wanted to teach us this way, or he was teaching us this way, so that after this, they couldn't fool us anymore. And so for any of us as Muslims in this part of the world, this is a legacy, this is a silsila that we should be running to connect ourselves to. This class is being brought to you by the organization Nasrul Ilm America, which is a philanthropic organization that was started by many of the young students in the New York and New Jersey area of Sheikh Hassan Sisi, the renowned Islamic scholar and humanitarian. And we are working with, studying with, learning from, taking our orders from, and supporting the work of Shaykh Ameen in this and in other endeavors. One big endeavor that we support Shaykh Ameen in this way with is the Midnight Run. And so before we start the class, I want to let you know a little bit about the Midnight Run. I call it the Midnight Run because this is what we called it in the past, but really we don't call it that anymore. It is an event, or Feed the Homeless. It is an initiative where we take food and clothes and toiletries and other items to homeless people in New York City, homeless and indigent people, less fortunate people. And so we're going to put a link down in the chat to tell you where you can donate, One of the ways that we can show our gratitude and appreciation for Sheikh Ameen is by supporting the work that he's doing to serve the community so that we want him to be independent. When you look at the big sheikhs all around the world who have stayed firm on the truth and haven't been, sort of manipulated by politics and things like this, one of the things they have in common is they've been able to be independent because the people don't want them to have to be supported by a government or even a mosque that might be a corrupt institution. And this is the way of Imam Malik. Imam Malik said you shouldn't take money for Islamic learning, or you shouldn't take money from the scholars shouldn't have to take money from the government or any institution like that, because then the government can feel like they are the ones who can determine what you're going to do. So we want to support this kind of independent work that Shaykh Ameen is doing. So I'm encouraging everyone to give whatever you can. And that's Muhammad that you hear in the background, my little son. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to our teacher, Shaykh Ameen Daud. And I encourage you all to get out your notebooks, get out your pencils, and take note, inshallah ta'ala. Don't just treat this as like a nice feel-good session. This is a class that you can learn from and benefit from. And I'm praying that Allah helps us to learn it and understand it and implement the knowledge that we gain in this class. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Ameen.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashraf al-mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammad wa sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa tabi'ina lahum bi ihsan ila yawmiddin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin an-nabiyyil ummi wa azwajihi ummahatil mu'minin wa zurriyatihi wa ali bayt kama sallaita ala Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid wa sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Anabad. So I want to just clarify something. This effort of feeding the homeless and these things, they saying Sheikh Ameen, but actually I couldn't do this alone. I have many people that help, and in regards to just the work that I'm trying to perform here in America, my friend Ajib Abdul Salam is one of my great helpers, and Kaba Abdul Fattah is one of my great helpers. Hajj Daud is one of my great helpers. It's not a singular effort at all, not even close. Abdullah ibn Islam is one of my great helpers. Brother Harun, we call him Nick. He's one of my great helpers. And if I forget anybody, it's just that I'm old now and everything doesn't always come to mind easily, quickly. But those people that I've named are people that they're just as responsible for the work that I've been putting in. And they are also people that you can look to in the future. You know, Dr. Habib, you know, they're all people that, you know, can help the community. So I don't want to give people the wrong impression. I don't want them to think that Sheikh Ameen got some kind of secret bullet that can fix things. You know, I can't do that. I wish I could, but all I can do is try and be honest with you and let you learn from some of the knowledge that I was taught. That I would bet my life on this information. That is the best information that we could get because it came from the best source. Now, Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, he didn't tell the people, what he told the people in regards to taking monies from the government is that he doesn't advise it for the people, but he did, and he didn't want them to follow him in that endeavor. You see, because he had the ability to use their monies to help other people, but he didn't think everybody would have that ability. That when you know, the crisis came and it was between the monies and the people, many times the monies would win out, and you know, it would be a distraction to some of the good people who, without that money from the government, would have done better things. So, you know, I'm inclined to believe that myself. I had a talk with Imam Talib, who is like the Imam of MIB. On Friday, I gave a khutbah there, and you know, we are trying to break down some roads here. We're trying to break down some issues that go all the way back until the late 60s, and most of the Muslims of today have no knowledge about these things, and the why, you know, things are kind of like they are, but we know, we understand, and we're trying to patch up some of these problems. They need to be patched up because the work ahead of us is like so enormous. You know, in Islam, they don't believe that the end result is the all in all in regards to what we're doing. Islam believes it's the working towards that gives you the big rewards. It's not whether or not that you achieve that what you start for. It's whether or not you work towards it and how hard you work towards it that will give you the benefit. Like I told them on Friday, inshallah, from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that a person who sits around after filling their belly and their neighbors are hungry, he might not be a Muslim at all. And he also said that to help people, feed them, clothe them, help them, you know, in their problematic situations is more valuable than building a masjid. It's bigger than building a masjid. So to show that, the understanding of that, the great Sahaba, Abu Bakr Siddiq anhu, he used to go amongst the people dressed like the people and spread, you know, whatever help he could, even with his two hands. I'm talking about Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader of the Muslims. he would go amongst the people, and if it required chopping wood, feeding the sick, whatever he could do to help, he would do it. And so the people, not realizing he was Amirul Mu'mineen, because, you know, back in those days, the people of power dressed like people of power. You could recognize them coming. They had an entourage, they were blowing horns, and it was just, you know, I'm sure you've seen these various movies and things that show that era, show something from that era. Well, he was the exact opposite of that. He would go amongst the people in secret, dressed like them, talking with them, finding out their problems, because his belief was that you couldn't know about what was going on if they knew you were coming. See? So, you know, I think that the people of today, like Dr. Habib made this announcement. The announcement is not for me. I have no needs like that. Personally, I have food in my house. You know, my wife makes sure that, you know, I have food. Kaba's wife makes sure that I have food. You know, Ajiz's wife makes sure I have food. So, you know, I'm not hungry, but, you know, I don't like pomp, you know. I'd rather be like behind the scenes if I could be. My teacher used to always tell me that's not the place I can be. But, you know, personally, if I could be out fishing sometimes or something like that, or, you know, I used to play ball all the time, but I can't do that anymore physically. So, you know, I read a lot of books now and things like that. But you have to understand, this is not a position for glorification. You know, as I had the discussion with the Imam Talib, you know, I let him know I understand what he's dealing with, because the people don't understand what you're dealing with. And maybe that's why you can't get help so much help, because they're in their own world. You know, I got people who think they're doing good, and they're hurting me. They're not doing good at all. You know, and they're yelling and screaming about being good Muslims and what Allah requires. I don't know what Allah requires from us. And, you know, and in any case, I see them a mile away. You know, after 50 years or more of doing this kind of work and education, you're not fooling anybody but yourself. So, you know, and my estimation is that as long as you're still breathing, you have the opportunity. We have the opportunity to fix things. But, you know, once we dead, all this talk I'm giving you is going to be useless and meaningless. You know, it'll just be what it is. You won't be able to fix nothing. You won't be able to go back for nothing. So my advice to the people is to take advantage of the opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give to us. You know, for you to spend $50, you could spend $50 on lunch for yourself. People spend $50, $100 for little or nothing in this society today. So we have to reevaluate ourselves. You know, what do we really care about our deen here? What are we doing? We're rich. Back in the early 60s and 70s, we weren't rich. We were fighting, struggling, you know. Especially the people who were getting education. It was difficult to be getting education back then and you know, still dress nice and eat food, good food, and all these type of things that people take for granted today. You know, we didn't have that ability. And we used to make du'as, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be in a better position so that we can help more people. Now I see we're in a better position. See, my driver who drives me around everywhere, drives me around in a brand new car. See, so we are not poor like that anymore. But what we need to do is use our monies more wisely. More wisely. Because if we continue the way we're going and we look up and everything is all spaced out and everybody's going crazy and we haven't found the solution yet, that's going to be our fault. It's not the fault of infidels. People have a tendency to blame everything on the other guy. It's not the other guy. It's us. See, it's not because the foreigners come and they build a masjid. You know, they do whatever they have to do to try to live in an Islamic environment. So why are we mad at them? It's not them. It's us. When we're doing things, wasting our monies, you know, you can't waste your money and think that you're going to improve the society. No way. Everything in history that had to do with change required sacrifice. Now, whether you want to listen to me, whether you want to listen to me or you listen to somebody else, doesn't matter. As long as you are putting your effort in towards change for the good of the people. Now, you have to be careful who you follow. A man asked me on Friday, well, you know, Shaykh, you know, this, that, and other about who we follow and that. I said, yeah, but just think about everything else in this world. When you want to find somebody, a teacher, a leader, or, you know, whatever, you look at their credentials and their history. See, their credentials and their history. And then you look at their personality, like how do they interact with the people and so on and so forth. And you try to see them through your heart. And that'll give you a better impression on who's for real and who's not. Because I won't lie to you and tell you, everybody's for real who, you know, is claiming the imam or sheikh or whatever. It's not true. You want to see the heart of a real person in this deen, you look at their actions, because people talk. They'll say anything. They'll make you think they're the world's greatest Muslim. Oh, that's Islam. Oh, Sheikh, you can't do that because that's not Islam. This is Islam over here. I don't know what they're talking about. For every decision, you have to study that decision and see how many different ways can you approach this decision. See, most people, okay. They have something that the people are asking me about a lot. One thing is mental health issues. Shaykh, can you speak about mental health issues? I said, well, you know, not so much, because mental health is in Islam, only the modernist people actually spend a lot of time, you know, on these different theories of mental health. In Islam, people who show those type of signs are considered as having some kind of unity with the jinn. See? So it's the people of Tasawwuf who, you know, they should be talking to and the people of Tasawwuf will give them some type of instruments like dua and things like that, certain passages from the Quran, things like, they will give them some things to help to keep the jinn away from them, like a consistent recitation of Ayatul Kursi, and these are things like that to help them keep a straight mind. But the talk about that, it's not, you're not going to get too much talk about that from people of scholarship. You're going to get talk like that from people of the Tasawwuf. You know, they will have more answers for the general public. And yes, I do agree that we are infested. You know, it has to do with the system like we live under. We are infested with mental illness. We have so many people that take Shahada looking for help from mental illness. Okay, so that's one of the things they ask me about all the time. And then the other thing is women. Yani, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was asked about women, you know, he kind of let us know that he can't wholeheartedly answer those questions. He could give us some type of information, but he said he himself knew little about the workings of the mind of women. And then he cautioned us about certain things and so on and so forth. So I'm talking directly to the women. My teacher always say, use yourself as an example. So as an example, I can tell you that once after being a student for many years, and you know, one wife said she ain't want to be married to me no more. I didn't beat her up or nothing and go through all those crazy things. I said, okay, let's go talk to Dr. Dunya. We went to talk to Dr. Dunya. And Dr. Dunya, you know, he kind of let her know that she was wrong because she's hurting the Muslim people by giving me a hard time, because it's hard enough to maintain this education, you know, when you're at peace and harmony. But when you got somebody in your house, you know, giving you a hard time, you know, they're making it difficult for you to help the Muslim people. See? So because of Dr. Dunya's stature and his position, she calmed down for a little while. But as soon as Dr. Dunya died, she apostated. As soon as he died, she was off and running. So of course I couldn't stay with her. But at the same time, I had the Muslim lady that was her co-wife. And the Muslim lady that was her co-wife, I'm still with her today. That was more than 50 years ago. So, you know, people, they complain about things that they really shouldn't be complaining about. And it's not that much that brothers, it's not that much you can do about it. It's better for you to, you know, just always try to do the right thing by them. Food, clothing, shelter, that type of thing. Don't beat them up physically, you know. And fairness, being fair, is one of the things that the men especially have to look to cultivate in their relationship. Fairness. See? Be fair to them, to the best of your ability. That way, when you go before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not gonna be angry with you as long as you try to be fair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say sexual things, he kind of has leeway with that. You know, haram is haram, but he has he gives leeway with that sexual thing because he himself is the creator of those desires in a person. See, but you can't run around fornicating, adultery, and these type. You can't do that. See, so we have to be extremely careful. And every action that you perform that action only after deliberating what does Islam say about that. So if you got somebody saying to you, oh, Islam said this, it's like, well, you became the Shaykh? It's like, we don't understand that. We don't know, in any case. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. It's so many things that we're dealing with on a consistent basis. Like I told the Imam Friday, I'm tired. I would just prefer to go on about, meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In many cases, I'm just tired of the people. The people are, we're in a bad time, really bad time, Okay, anyway, I did my best to explain it to you to the best of my ability. And I know this is like serious business because I've been doing this a long time, right? And I sit in my office, and every time somebody goes, yes, Shaykh Ameen, can I talk to you? He come in my office or she come in my office, it's always some disagreement with the spouse. It shouldn't be like that. Shouldn't be like that. The wife should always be the covering for the husband. The husband should always be the covering for the wife. And everything in between have to be worked out. But so many people are arrogant, angry, and a lot of this mental illness have to do with schizophrenia, and people, they don't see things clearly. They're attacking their friend instead of attacking the enemy. It's just a bad time, In any case, there are so many people out there as I'm talking, I can see them. I know they're shaking their head going, Shaykh know what he's saying about that. Because they are the people who have knocked on my door. Many of them, many. Sometimes I just wonder to myself, how they still walking around calling themselves Muslim when they're doing more damage than good. Salam Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa salama tasliman kathira. So that's the part of this job that is very difficult. It's a job that while you saying what the people want to hear from you, everybody's tapping you on the back saying, good job, good job. But as soon as you don't say what they think that you should say to them, what kind of advice you give them, they don't agree with, oh, no, I don't like what he said. Well, okay. Does that mean you're right, or does that mean you're wrong? Because you don't like what they said? Whether or not, who are you? How much time did you put in to learning these things? How much did you sacrifice to have the right to judge somebody else? How much of that? How many years did you put in to have the right to try to judge somebody trying to give you the best information? See? This is where people flounder. This is the biggest problem that they're having. That everybody want to be the imam and the sheikh, but don't have the qualifications for that. So they giving bad advice. They even giving bad advice to themselves. Okay. It says in the book, in the case of the kuf, you are allowed to wipe over it when making ablution only after you had made a complete ablution, and following this you put on the kuf. But in the case of wiping over the bandage, you need not have ablution to put on a bandage. And you are allowed to wipe over the bandage when making ablution without having ablution prior to putting on the bandage. Should I say it again? I can't see Frank. Frank, can you hear me? I can't see Frank.
I can hear you, Shaykh, but the camera's off. I can't put my camera on, so you can't see me. It's all the cameras are turned off by someone else.
Really? Okay, mashallah. I see his name where he should be. Okay.
Yeah, Sheikh, I think with Sidi Bilal, if you're able to let other people have their cameras on, I don't know if you can do it now because we already started the class, but
it's okay.
I know Sheikh and me like to see our
It's
faces.
okay, doctor. I'm just see, I use Frank as a catalyst because when I'm looking at him and I'm doing this work, I can tell whether or not it's going in and whether or not, he needs to ask more questions about it, because he'll actually raise his hand and I'll see him raise his hand, and then I'll make an opportunity for him to be able to ask me, because I know if he's asking, other people will probably want to ask too. So that's why I'm saying Frank in particular, because, Frank is very studious type, and his notes are good notes. I see you, Frank. Alhamdulillah.
Yes, if you could please repeat that point.
That's what I wanted to know. I'm going to do it right now. Inshallah. So it says, in the case of the kuf, the kuf is a leather sock. A leather sock. Nowadays, the kuf has become a part of Islamic fashion. So many of the people who are wearing kuf have never been taught the right method of wearing kuf, because it has rules to it. So it says, in the case of the kuf, you are allowed to wipe over it when making ablution. Only after you had made a complete ablution, and following this, you put on the kuf. But in the case of wiping over the bandage, you need not have ablution to put on a bandage. And you are allowed to wipe over the bandage when making ablution without having ablution prior to putting on the bandage. You got it, Frank? Alhamdulillah? Okay. So, in education, repetition is the method for education. So, I realized that many times I'm overtly explaining things and going over it again and again and again. This is the methodology that the ulama said is necessary for the attainment of this knowledge. See? And they say don't do a lot of it at one time. These technical things, you're just supposed to do a little here, and then the next time another little, until, the people, they grow in regards to their ability to take information better. Look, if you stunk in school before Islam, you're gonna probably stink in school in Islam. So you have to, it's a training that comes. We have to train ourselves to be good students. See? Okay. قد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum. We're trying our best to establish in the people the proper method of studying Islam. It's not something, this type of study is not something you can take the information from the Frank man next, who's downstairs selling Franks, or from the shoemaker who's, he's on the job making shoes, and then you go in there and ask him a question, and, unless he himself is scholarly, but he just happened to be doing that as a job. So in any case, it's good for you to know who you're dealing with. Okay? Assalamu alaikum, sister. It's good for you to know who you're dealing with. And, if they're not giving you repeated doses of information and explaining it in different ways, he's probably not giving you the best information. It's as simple as that. You can take my word for it or not, but the system that has abounded for so many years in Islam, over 1,000 years, has been repetition is the key to understanding this jurisprudence. Okay. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because they think they're already smart. See, got a lot of people that they feel that their brain or their smartness exceeds everybody else. And yes, sometimes you do get students who some student is quicker than other students, but that's not considered as like the best type of attitude for a Muslim to have. And for a teacher, since I recognize that, I try to put into my lesson a method that allows the people who have a little bit quicker retention level than the others to get some benefit, but the others have to get benefit too. So you have a medium, and in that medium is repetition. Okay. I'm gonna give you time to ask me questions now, inshallah.
Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So if you have questions, please type them in the chat, inshallah ta'ala, so we can ask them. If you have questions, please type them in the chat. If it's a question that you have difficulty typing, then there's a little button you can push to raise a hand, and we'll go ahead and take you off mute so that you can ask it, inshallah ta'ala. But we'll give you a minute to type in your questions, and while that's happening, I'm going to repost this message and say once again that we are collecting money for anyone who wants to contribute to the feeding of the homeless. Shaykh Ameen and Nasr Ilm America, we're going to be doing our regular run to take food and clothes and toiletries to homeless people in New York City. So I just texted down in the link. You can send it to the Cash App, but please make sure you add a note that is for Feed the Homeless. You could say for feed, yes, that's the best thing for you to put, Feed the Homeless or something like that, so we know what it's for, inshallah ta'ala. I see Brother Frank typed in, alhamdulillah, may Allah reward you. He said he has a wudu question.
Yes, Frank.
I didn't get to finish typing it, so I'll just ask it if I can.
Yeah, it's better to ask me anyway.
Question about wudu. For example, when I wipe my arm 3 times. Do I need to put my hand under the water 3 times, or can I put my hand under the water 1 time and then rub 3 times?
Each wiping you should use. Listen to me. One of the things that I see people doing when they're making wudu, and of course I can't walk around, all day long telling people, oh, that's not the right way to do it. It's a bit too much. So what I do is I tell the students, the littlest use of water is better in wudu. The smallest use of water is better for wudu. But for each wiping, it should be a small use of water. So you don't let the water flow and stick your hand under it and then wipe and then stick your hand under it again. No, you have it. My teacher showed me one time he made wudu when the water was coming out, drip, drip, drip. He had turned the faucet down to the point where the water wasn't flowing like that. It come drip, drip. And so this actually is the bigger sunnah for wudu. So, but yes, you should, where did Frank go? Frank, you should, Yani, for each wiping, use a small amount of water. You shouldn't be making wudu and the water from the wudu is flying all over the sink and the wall and the floor. See, it should be a small amount of water. This is a big sunnah in the aspect of wudu. Big sunnah, okay? As you like.
Alhamdulillah. More questions? Any other questions? Sidi Bilal, if there's any questions from the YouTube, if you could text them to me, inshallah.
Okay. I want to prepare you guys for something. As of right now, this era that I'm in right now, I got a lot of people that, they show love to me. They show love to me. Oh, we love Shaykh Ameen. Well, my training tells me that this is an up and down endeavor. Sometimes the people love you, then they'll turn around the next time and they can't take you. So I'm prepared for that. I know that's a part of the process. See? Because if some people, just like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was like the best thing that happened to the world. If they had showed displeasure at him, then who am I? I know I'm going to get it. No question about it. But a lot of times, my students, in those eras when, I wasn't considered as the nicest guy, my students would get into conflicts. So I always start my classes off when I start a new subject matter by telling my students, look, if you cause fitna, you cannot be one of my students. So don't go around to the neighbors and the friends and say, yo, but Shaykh Ameen said so and so and so, and then you want to fight with them. No. That's not the way that we build bridges and bond. So I'm telling you ahead of time. Sometimes the people go from loving you to not loving you. And usually it's based on whether or not you're saying what they want you to say or what they think you should be saying, or the way they feel. Like this, look. the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a mercy to mankind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him to give us everything we needed to know to gain entrance into paradise and to go through this world in a dignified way as Muslims, see? So the historians ask, well, if he had a God with him and he had angels with him and he had these great companions, you know, then why people didn't believe him? Well, that's where they're wrong. It's not that they didn't believe him. It's that they weren't ready to change. See? It's not that his history told the people, if we don't believe anybody, we should believe him. But the people themselves were not ready to change. So when he would tell them something, as you know about the Quran, it gives rules and regulations. And a lot of times the people, you know, they didn't want to abide by the rules and regulations, not because they didn't believe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but because they just wasn't ready to change. See? So at those times, they didn't want to hear what he had to say because they wasn't ready to change. And that's the way I look at things. I go, they know they're wrong, but, you know, I'm going to take away their fun. I'm going to take away what they think is their fun. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, got to sacrifice something to get somewhere. It's like that. Nobody wants to hear that. So, mashallah. So I just want you to know, don't include yourself in the fitna. Don't do that to yourself. You're not supporting me by doing that, because all I'm gonna tell you is, well, why would you do that? Why didn't you just say, you know, I trust Shaykh Ameen. If you know, I trust his history, his education, and you know, he asks people, you can look at my credentials and everything. I'm not a pretender, so I don't have to hide. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent me here for the American Muslims in particular. But you know what? It's the foreign Muslims that get more benefit from me than my own people. Why? Because they don't want to change. They don't want to sacrifice. They don't want to struggle. So it's easier for them to go back into their holes, see, spend their money the way they want to, take their kufi off, put it on when they want, take it off when they want, not really be connected to the work of Islam, only here and there, but no commitment. Okay. MashaAllah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin al-Fatihi lima أغلق الكاتب لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهدي الله صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. So there's a lot of things going on in this Islamic world that, you know, my people are more like the ostrich. Whenever anything don't look right, they stick their head in the ground, but their behind and everything is still sticking out, as if sticking their head in the ground is protecting them from something. It's just completely asinine. The whole idea is just completely asinine. And rather than take your head out the sand and look around and say, what can I do to help? You stick your head in the sand. That don't help. That don't help you, and it don't help nobody else. Okay. Inshallah, let Dr. Habibur Rasul, if there's something else you want to tell me, I'm listening.
Yes, so we have a question. I hope I'm understanding this question correctly. I'm going to ask it in a most straightforward way I can think to ask it. So I think he's asking, if you make wudu and you feel like you missed the spot, or your arm's not completely wet, Is there ever a time when you would wipe more than 3 times?
Yeah, sometimes that happens, you know. Sometimes that happens in general. Sometimes it happens because, you know, you lose track of how many times. When I'm making wudu, listen to me. When I'm making wudu, I'm not going 1, 2, 3 like that. I'm going forward, what is absolutely required. Sunnah, what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did so many times that he wanted us to follow that example. And then mustahab. Mustahab is something that it gives you benefit if you do it, but if it's not done, you don't get punished for it. Listen to me. What is the biggest thing in wudu? The biggest things are not using a lot of water, small amount of water. Also, your niyyah, your intention of what you're making wudu for. And then to be expedient, like don't like wash one part, then go answer the phone, talk to your soulmate or your children, and then come back, wash the next part. You know, so it has to be a continuous wiping. But sometimes, yes, you will wipe a part more than 3 times. More, if you saying more and you meaning that you double the amount of times that you wipe something, like instead of wiping 3 times, you wiping it 6 times. Then you got a problem. Because what that means is that your concentration is not on what you're doing. It could be from medication, could be from something else that's haram. It could be that you're just too tired. Whatever it is, this is a defining methodology to know I'm not making wudu properly, because I think I washed the same part 6 times. You see, so if you're doing it and you're doubling what it should be, that's too much. Okay. Hagatain.
Nah, alhamdulillah. So right now there's no, I don't see any more questions. If you have more questions, please type them in the chat quickly, inshallah ta'ala. I wanted to ask a question in the meantime. Shaykh, I wanted to ask, and we've talked about this, but I wanted to ask for the people's benefit because people have been asking me. In terms of Jumu'ah, where are we at a stage yet where the people should be going back to Jumu'ah, or should they still be staying home because of the pandemic?
Okay. Allahumma salli wa sallam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. This is an individual act that I can't order people that are uncomfortable with their surroundings, because, you know, I only go into 1 or 2 masjids. And, you know, even I don't really go into the Islamic cultural center there. I don't go in there too much because I don't think they did a good job in the preparation to keep down the pandemic. You know, when I went to MIB, which is a much smaller environment, but I felt more comfortable in there because they had the you know, it was a flowing of air and it's the cleanliness factor, you know, and you know, everybody had on their masks. Well, you know, the Islamic Center is so big that it's difficult, first of all, to control people's you know, the way they do things. And they had problems. They're always having problems with their cooling system in there. The ventilation is not, I don't like the way the ventilation is downstairs where my office is. So, you know, I have been avoiding going there. But what a person should do is, if they're not feeling good, like Frank asked me, Frank said, well, Shaykh, can I go to the center and just pray outside? I said, certainly. If you're comfortable with that, you can go to the center and pray outside, you know. But me personally, you know, I'm always looking for a place that is more progressive in regards to the things that we're dealing with today. So, you know, I can't tell you yes or no actually for that question because it's individual. It's an individual answer. You know, and, I'm not going to tell you, no, don't go to Juma, start for love and that. How can I answer that? You know, I have to, and I can't tell you, you must go to Juma. And then when people start falling out like flies, they're going to look around. It's the Shaykh Ameen told us we had to go. So it's a no-win situation for me. See? So that's a decision that people have to make individually based on how they feel about the place where they go to make Juma. Okay, that's the best way I can answer you. As you like.
Alhamdulillah, thank you, Shaykh. That was very, very clear. So alhamdulillah, it seems like people don't have a lot of any more questions today. If you do have questions, you should hurry up and type them before you miss your opportunity. And let me just say to the people, you should make it a point. And I know this is happening to you because it happened to me throughout the years. When you're going about your week and the question comes to you, you're making salat and you say, I wonder if I dealt with that situation in the right way. Or you're going about your day and like, I wonder, if I'm doing this right or doing this wrong. Jot your questions down. Write your questions down so that when we come and we have the opportunity to be with a scholar, to be with an alim on Sunday, you can take the most advantage of it and ask your question and get your question answered. And I'm not beating you up because, like I said, I know the same thing happened to me. And at some point I said, I'm tired of forgetting my questions. I'm going to write my questions down, So write your questions down so that you can bring them on Sundays, inshallah ta'ala, because it's considered very bad etiquette. And I'm not, like I said, we take this class every week. So many of you ask great questions every week. But I'll take this opportunity to mention what I've heard scholars say at different times. It's considered bad etiquette when you're sitting in front of the scholar and you don't have some questions to ask, because then it's almost like you know everything. So inshallah, make it a point to jot your questions down, inshallah, so that when it comes Sunday, you can get your questions answered. But alhamdulillah, that's alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much, Dr. Rasul. And this is an age-old problem. Like my teacher used to say, when nobody would ask any more questions, he just look at us and say, now watch. As soon as I get up and go to my quarters, everybody's going to remember, oh, I should have asked Dr. Dunya about this. I should have asked Dr. Dunya about that. He said, well, that's why we should write our stuff down. And you're absolutely right. That's the right way. Like, people call me on the phone, and they will call me on the phone and tell me a story. I mean, I'm minding my business. I got a new book that Imam Talib gave me. This book, Rising, the Dead Are Arising. Talk about Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. And I keep it here because I sit in this chair to do a lot of different things. So I'll correct that boy. I'll be in my house minding my business, reading my book. And then here comes somebody calling me on the phone to tell me a story. And I don't mind if they want to ask me a question, but I really don't need more stories in my life. That's really bad etiquette to impose your stories on somebody, and interfere in their peaceful mind. See, I tell people all the time, if you didn't tell me that, I wouldn't even know that exists. I'm not running around trying to find more dirt and more fitna. I'm not even interested in that. So if you call me, you should already have your plan on what you need. I'm going to call Shaykh Ameen and ask him whether I should go to the right for this one or should I use the left for that one. And I don't mind that because I can just answer you. But if you're gonna sit me down, tell me this whole story before you get to the question, that's really bad adab. You know, adab, etiquette, that's really bad etiquette. It's very frustrating, you know. And let me tell you something. Many times people think that they're showing how much they know or how much, you know, they got going on. But for a person like me who understands the sunnah, I can see you coming a mile away, so you ain't fooling nobody but yourself. If you come to me, you telling me a story, the first thing I'm gonna think is, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he telling me this story? If he wants to answer a question, maybe I'm taking insulin. It caused me, so I don't ignore you people. I don't ignore the people. See, nobody can accuse me of that. I do not ignore the people. If you leave me a message, I'll call you back. See, because in my estimation, I worked for you. See, so somebody calls me and then they start telling me this whole big story. I'm in the middle of taking insulin or trying to get something to eat, and I'll tell them, well, this is not the best time, brother. They'll still keep talking. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm telling you, this is, you have no idea how many people I have to deal with in the course of a day that, they just have some really bad etiquette, brother, sister, it's just terrible. See, especially, I got some sisters that'll call me and, if I don't do things the way they think I should do it, then they want to call and abuse me. Then they want to be abusive to me. See? So, this is not the job for a weak-hearted person, period. This is not that job for them. You're going to deal with this type of stuff? You better toughen up. Because, the people, they'll kill you, man. They'll drive you crazy. Okay. I said enough.
Alhamdulillah.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad. I hear
Say
you.
salam alaikum to Shaykh Ameen, Muhammad.
Is this Saigon?
Alaikum salam, rahmatullah. How you doing, Muhammad? Where's Ibrahim? Dr. Rasul. Okay, I don't know. MashaAllah. Okay. Can you still hear me? Nick, Frank, you can still hear me? Okay. I'm gonna stop this class and make my prayers now. Allahumma inni as'aluka min kulli khairin sallallahu minhu Muhammadan nabiyuka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa a'udhu bika min kulli sharrin istathaka minhu Muhammadan nabiyuka sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma aghfir lana ma qaddamna wa ma akharna wa ma asrarna wa ma lana wa ma anta alimu bihi min nar rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-mahya wa mamat wa min fitnati al-qabri wa min fitnati masih al-dajjali wa min athab an-nar wa su' al-masir. Wa sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam taslim kathira. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Yeah, alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi, Shaykh.
Alaikum salam. Hassan, how are you?
Alaikum salam.
Alhamdulillah, Shaykh. Very good.
Alhamdulillah.
Very good.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Walaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum, sisters.
Ameen, alaikum salam. Walaikum
Alhamdulillah.
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 Inshallah, we see each other next week, inshallah.
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 Okay, I'm going to stop now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Did Shaykh leave?
Yeah, I think so.
Mashallah, mashallah. I couldn't hear anything. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah.
But thank you,
Habib,
everyone.
did you see that question?
I didn't really. I took a picture of it as I was closing out, so I could come back and look at it. Let me see.
MashaAllah. That was from the Jumad Mujahideen.
Muhammad. So I mean, yeah, there's some evidence from that. I mean, I'm shy, man. This Shaykh Ameen class. I don't answer no questions, but we know that Allah lets us know that the believers. Yeah, because He says, وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء ويقيموا الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة ذلك الدين القيم إن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين في نار جهنم خالدين فيها أولئك هم شر البرية إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك هم خير البرية. So in that verse he says that the believers will have a good reward, will have gardens with rivers flowing underneath, abadan, forever. So from that we can take that, the people who believe inshallah ta'ala, they're gonna be in Jannah forever, and they're gonna be exempt from the fire. But only Allah knows who's the believers, because even our leader Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, when he heard that the Prophet ﷺ had given one of the Sahabas a list of all the hypocrites, he was knocking on his door in the middle of the night trying to see if he was on that list. So Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu doesn't feel secure from the fire. I know I don't. but those who Allah deems to be believers, who He forgives for their sins and their mistakes, they're gonna be exempt from the fire, inshallah ta'ala. So that's the only way I can think to answer that. But maybe you can ask Shaykh Ameen next week as well, inshallah. It's too hard? Okay, no problem. No problem. Brother Hassan, did that answer your question or start to answer the question?
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Hassan.
He might be caught up.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Caught up in the rapture. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so Shaykh Ameen closed out, made dua?
Yes.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you, Sidi Bilal, man. You've been doing an excellent job as always, making everything run smooth. Alhamdulillah.
Good to be
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. And inshallah. Brother Hassan, did you hear the answer to your question?
Yeah.
Did you hear the answer?
I apologize. No, I'm watching the Zoom on YouTube and I'm listening on the phone as well. So there's a delay.
Yeah, there's a delay. It's not lockstep. It's a delay. Yep.
Yeah. But I heard your question, and yes, it answers my question.
Good. Now let's go ahead and shut it down, because I feel funny with us, all being here. Feet is off, So inshallah we'll reconvene next week. But if anybody has any needs between now and then, feel free to text me, inshallah. Also, I do want to say one more thing before we leave. I want to encourage everybody once again, in case anybody